We got the witness.
Okay. This should be interesting. Hopefully we are live everywhere. Mark.
Yeah.
We are streaming not only on YouTube.
Yeah.
But also Rumble.
What?
And now Locals.
The trifecta?
The trifecta. Okay. People are watching us on Locals. So this opens things up very nicely for Locals members, because we'll be streaming there. They'll be able to watch the, supporters watch the episode there with no ads, things like that. And I'd recommend everybody, if you want to check out our Locals, there's a link. I pinned the comment. It's a link in the description. On Rumble, it's a link in the description. You can watch it for free right now just to get an idea what the interface looks like, and, watch the chat there. There's a separate chat and everything. We'd love to see you and maybe get your support. But, okay, audio is out of sync for people. We'll find out.
Is that true?
Okay, we're getting random comments in Locals about the audio being in sync or out of sync, oh, wow, here we go.
Oh, look, there's others. Look at this.
Wow. Barnes, I was just telling Mark, we are actually streaming live this show on Locals.
Wow.
Oh, you always figure out a way to ghetto rig these things. How'd you do that?
Well, they hooked me up, but they know that I'm goofy enough to test things. So we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, and we're on Locals. So the cool thing is that if we get the copyright strike, because we play a little piece of music, everybody on Locals and Rumble will still see the piece of music that we have to clip out of YouTube later on, etc. So I'm hoping that people, check it out. And it'll also be there with no ads, so people can watch it anytime down the road, all of our paid supporters. So, exciting day for me. I might be a little over enthusiastic, but I've been waiting for a long time for this, and we can look at possibilities like even stopping the show here and doing a little extra, exclusively for Locals and things like that.
Wow.
Sweet. Yeah, the nerds unite.
The nerds unite.
Of the whole crew, all of us, basically. I'm not a boomer, but I play one when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
The only Hunley's the only one that knows how to work any of this.
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah. He's the Timothy Leary of Locals. I mean,
which, thank God, he's coming out.
I have no idea how he does this, Robert. I just sit here like a putz with no pants on, and he turns the wheels.
Well, I got to have a purpose. See, it keeps me in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is we're going to need it for our first ever Viva Barnes Law Locals meetup, which will be Sunday, February 26th in Las Vegas, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Might have a real fun venue. We'll see if it works out. Trying to work that out this weekend. Tickets will go on sale next week. We will probably cap the total number of people. We may cap it.
You better
real
cap
low.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought about 200 people. It'll be 100 or less. I may even cap it at like 75. With the goal being to make it sort of a more of an intimate setting where people really get to interact, really get to talk to folks, interact with one another, interact with us. But we're a part of it. The goal is to do at least an hour of that, the live streaming regular show, but with special guests.
What?
Eric Hunley and Mark Groubert.
This is going to be something, let me tell you.
But did you see Viva interviewing that the former Ruski British?
I heard you mention it yesterday.
You're not a fan of Constantine, I get the impression.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not a fan of it. I don't trust his views.
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't think he argued in good faith with Viva. What do you think, Eric? Did you see it?
I did. It was pretty unbearable after a while, but I get the impression, and I don't mean anything bad. He is very well read. He is from Russia, and he's a translator, so he's got a lot of information and a lot of details, and that went into the weeds. but nobody could settle on what the actual conversation was. So it was very frustrating because David would say one thing and he'd say, well, what about this? What about that? And when you get into that, what about, and the arguments and the interruptions, I feel like David isn't equipped to argue that like somebody, from the Duran, where,
Right.
they would go toe to toe with him. But David was just trying to do a good faith. Hey, how are we going to do this? And then try to maintain some control, but don't be rude. And the guy was very combative.
Who is this guy? The guy who went to Oxford and spoke?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
so
isn't he a comedian, Robert, of some sort?
Yeah,
allegedly.
Well, you'd be able to assess it.
Right. I couldn't assess that. I watched the Oxford thing. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a good little,
Right.
anti-woke speech. That's
Right.
sort of how he's developed this sort of market. So, but like he started out supposedly as a comedian, and it's like I've never found him funny.
Well, he was at Stalin's Chuckle Factory in Moscow, which it closed after the fall of the Soviet Union, but one of the top venues in Moscow for many years.
Yeah, can you imagine trying to tell a joke around Stalin?
Right.
That would not. Comedy was something. This is the point that I think Rogan has made, as well as others. He's like, comedy can't survive in a totalitarian.
I've made this point many times for many years. I mean, that is absolutely true. The first guy to go in the Me Too thing was Louis C.K. I mean, then it followed after that, the getting rid of Seinfeld's and Chris Rock's at the college level. They couldn't tour anymore. Not accidental. The first
they went
thing
after Kevin Hart. They went after Kevin
Hart.
The
first thing that has to go is comedy, because you cannot ridicule fascist and totalitarian leaders and the totalitarian state. Let's face it.
And you live in a culture where that stuff is like, I was a clerk at a corporate law firm, second year in law school, and Second City, which started out in Toronto, but I think Toronto, Canada, came down to Chicago. Yeah. We went to one of the shows, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this was right after Christopher Reeve's accident. So the guy came in as a Superman in a wheelchair. In a wheelchair, I fell off the chair. I know, it's really funny. I fell off the everybody around it was funny. All the interns were with these partners around the corporate law firm, and they're all just trying not to laugh. And the partners look, that's a shameful what you've done. It's like we came to a Second City show. Second City once did a big routine called "I Wish I Could Be Retarded," and all, stuff like that.
But we had a Lampoon tour called "That's Not Funny, That's Sick," and it was based on a Sam Gross cartoon. Sam Gross, the famous New Yorker cartoonist and Lampoon cartoonist, and he had two people eating in a restaurant, and the sign up above said "Frog's legs, $10," and the frog came out on a skateboard with no legs, and that was the T-shirt for the show. That's Not Funny, That's Sick, which played at the Village Gate, Art Lugoff's place, which we referenced last week. But
hey, by the way, in the locals chat, somebody just posted a Ukrainian flag and said that Montana is flying the Ukrainian flag so they can get Air Force protection.
That's funny. That's funny. I think it's over Missouri now, and I hear people are taking pot shots at it, trying to take it down like they did Charles Joseph Whitman in the Austin Tower in 1966, where everyone showed up taking shots at Whitman, but he was too ensconced in the tower to really nail him. But what do you make of the balloon? I'm looking at this thing. I'll give you my take on it right off the bat. I haven't put much thought to it. It's the reverse of Gary Powers and U2. They took it down. They've canceled the summit. Blinken came out today canceling the peace summit, kind of like Khrushchev and Eisenhower had to go through when they said it was a weather balloon that was the U-2 spy plane, and Khrushchev put Powers on TV making a complete schmuck out of Eisenhower, who kept saying these were reconnaissance flights, Robert. And what do you make of that take?
Yeah, it's a good take. I mean, I have a comment. Like one thing, I'm curious how often, how common, how usual is this? Is it something that's just now is being spotted? The second part is I get a lot of people being critical of the Biden administration's response to it. The only flip side of that is we do this more than anybody around the world. We're the number one people using, especially we use satellites more often than anything else, but we spy on people everywhere. So it's like, are we going to start establishing a precedent that if you're spying on somebody else's airspace, they get to shoot it down?
When you've got balloons being controlled out of Shanghai by the Communist Party flying over Missouri and Montana, you've got an international incident because now
yes.
you've got the ground border that's been violated. Now you've got national airspace being violated. What is left? I mean, when do the Chinese tanks start rolling down the 5 out of Spokane? I mean, at some point, I mean, you got to do something. Otherwise, it's Red Dawn.
They come back and take back San Francisco. Well, remember Red Dawn 2, a buddy of mine was the agent for the the action. He was a second unit action director, got the Red Dawn 2 gig, and then because of the deal he did, he ended up firing my guy who was his agent, my buddy, going a different route. And of course, then he screwed it all up because he ran afoul of political correctness. Because originally that was exactly it. It was China invades America, part 2. And because they wanted to sell the movie in China, because the movie studio didn't want China offended, they changed it to North Korea.
Okay, let me add some more truth to that so I could pad it out a little bit. The entire movie was shot with Chinese soldiers dressed in Chinese outfits, Chinese insignias, the plane, the uniforms, everything else. So China informs them that this is not acceptable in the Chinese market. They go back and reshoot every single scene with North Korean uniforms, North Korean insignias, North Korean language. They reshoot the entire thing, bring it back to China, who then tells them, go fuck yourselves, and stabs them in the back, and they don't let it into the Chinese market. Anyway, costing them about $5 to $7 million in reshoots. That's the rest of that story.
Oh, yeah.
That story.
Yeah.
And of course, the origin story of Red Dawn is the great, the one, the only.
Oh, yeah.
John Milius.
That's right. Toast to John Milius.
Absolutely. Toast to John. Daughter Amanda's out there. Hopes he's doing well, too. Good director in her own right, up and comer.
Right.
Yeah, she's working on a McAfee film.
Exactly. The doing.
I'd pay to see that. I'd like to see that McAfee film.
She has the rights to the John McAfee from John McAfee's widow.
Right, but that's got Hunley footage in there, so she's going to have
and
to
Hunley's going to be a producer.
She's going to have to deal with the Hunley estate.
Hunley's going to get his first big IMDb credit system.
Right. I think Leslie is his
wife.
No,
I actually am in the. I do have an IMDb credit for the McAfee footage.
Wow. Wow.
Sweet.
Additional, I think. Well, no, it's not IMDb. It's on the end of the film. You know, when you finish a Netflix film and it goes to the next, if you say watch credits and you keep waiting, right before the last, it says additional footage, and this is Eric Hunley.
Wow.
Did you take a photo of that? But
you
Eric,
got a screenshot.
I think I did somewhere.
You got
I think I just took a picture of it.
What I have here.
Hunley was putting it down. He was slow playing it. Getting 4 pictures of it. Getting remakes of it.
Well, I mean, how do you think I know how far to go?
Yeah, exactly.
I have a list of names here, Robert. A list of names, and on this list, this secret list that we'll go over in a second, is a list of names of witnesses in the Baldwin murder trial coming up in Santa Fe. Yeah, this is a list of witnesses.
They've already listed it officially?
Yep. We got
it's not official. It's another bottle. So it might have come from a witness somehow.
Right. It's a fascinating list, Robert. I mean, there's all kinds. My favorite person on here is Lane Looper, the camera assistant, who complained about the accommodations to Baldwin and safety issues. He's on here. And the insane Mamie Elizabeth Mitchell, the elderly script supervisor who hated the Dave Halls, the AD, and is suing Baldwin and everybody else with Gloria. What's her name? The Gloria Elrod here in Superior Court in L.A. So he's on the list. Plus, Gabrielle Pickle, the line producer, is on the list. Oddly enough, and Eric's friend Seth Kenny's on the list.
Seth Kenny's on the list. Some of them are obvious. So is Sarah Zachary.
Sarah Zachary's on the list. This is
Joel
an all-star team. Sousa's on the list. Wow. Yeah. I didn't see Sousa.
Yeah, he's on page 4.
Okay, let me look here. Holy cow, this is pretty good.
About 3/4 down.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, Joel Sousa. Yeah.
Now, Barnes, in the case of these lists, they're not necessarily everyone, right? It's just throwing it out there like we'd like to call all these witnesses, but they may or may not. Is that how that works?
Yes. So in order to preserve your right to call a witness, you have to put them on the witness list by whatever court deadline the court issues. Otherwise, it's considered a surprise or ambush witness. That can be grounds to exclude the witness. Now,
Right. Yeah.
someone asking about the cigar. You actually get a hit off the cigar just by chomping on
Oh,
it.
definitely,
That's
definitely.
just for those people who
Yeah.
wonder why that is. Don't smoke it very often because YouTube and others don't like it. You want to know one of the great all-time witness list? It's almost as good as some of my exhibit list. I had an exhibit list in a criminal tax trial where I had Alice in Wonderland as exhibit number 1 was the book.
Really?
Oh, I love it.
just to screw with the government. It was just like a long
That's
litany.
funny.
That drove him crazy. But the witness list we had in Snipes because nobody could figure it out. I knew the media would jump all over it. Tom Hanks was on there.
Right.
Billy Joel was on there.
Right.
All these huge names were on there. People were like, what is going on? How are they going to be witnesses? The message was for one person. They were all the clients and customers of an accountant out of New York known as Ken Starr. Ken Starr was the star witness against Snipes.
Oh, my.
And I wanted Starr to know I knew all the different people he had scammed and defrauded. And that I would call every single one of those celebrities to expose him and his business and other people who worked with him, just as a little wake up call in case he got up and lied on the stand. But it threw the government in a tizzy, and it threw the media in a crazy tizzy. Like, what is this person? How is this person? Because it was 100 of them were the top celebrities in America.
I love that.
You know who else is on here is Nicole Montoya,
yes.
Eric, the assistant prop manager, the little.
Yeah, it makes sense, though. I mean, anybody on the set, I think, is a no-brainer. Lane Looper has to be there because of the whatever went down. Because remember, he's the one who revealed to the public that there were discharges that happened the day before or a couple days before.
Right.
One of some was Sarah Zachary, actually. So then she's got to be on there. And we've already talked about it. She didn't get charged. She damn sure is going to be a witness.
You mean fire
accidental discharge.
Not some health discharges.
Oh yeah,
no. You have to be clear on YouTube. I mean, we said self-deletion, the other word, and
Jesus, yeah, Barnes. The interview that we did with D. Eugenio that Mark did, I put up on YouTube. Right, great interview. You have to go and click and understand that it could be representing self-harm, because in the interview they mentioned that Lee Harvey Oswald used a fake self-deletion to get out of Minsk.
Yeah. No, well, to stay in the Soviet Union, to be correct.
Oh, sorry.
He faked the self-deletion. So we're just talking about this in passing. It's really not it's just like a brief, little thing. We get slapped with the entire screen covered, warning, alert, whoop, whoop, whoop.
And we're getting all these comments and saying, what's going on? And people freak out. They're like, oh, what is this? Some kind of adult material? And
you would have to dig in to find this one-liner. And yet the algorithm goes, red lights go off in YouTube headquarters in Alaska in Nome. Somebody mentioned this particular phrase. I mean, it's a phrase or a word that would come up in any medical YouTube show. You know what I mean? If Dr. Drew was talking to someone about this, what is their up? Why are they so uptight about this one word?
Oh, it gets worse too, because if you go in the back end in YouTube Studio, it's for obviously demonetized and then upheld by manual review. And I'm like, I don't even remember submitting for
foul number 23. Eric Hunley has been removed from the game.
Yeah, it appears so.
So you can't challenge it, or
no? That's what they're saying. It was upheld, and I don't even remember asking for a review. So YouTube is you can always ask for a review. No.
After further review, we've upheld the call on the field. Yeah, it stands.
We're talking about a great show. I've seen the Andor show. It's written by the same guy who wrote. He's like this guy. I think Irish out of New York. He wrote he helped on Enemy of the State. Then he wrote the whole the adaptation of the Bourne Identity series. Did some of the other cool CIA type plots. Andor is like an entire how to build evolution of a revolution, how to take down the state, how to take down the empire.
Color revolution, Robert, or
the evolution of revolution. So the idea is like it's a classic origin story, but it's like, how do you build a revolution? It tells that story. It tells the story of how this, what it's really good at is the psychopathy of bureaucrats. It captures what our current State Department, CIA types are like, and how it captures the psychopathology of those personnel and personalities. But it is brilliant political, and he snuck it into Disney, no less, using the Star Wars brand to get there because he has this big reputation. They didn't interfere with him.
Well, I forgot the guy's name, the guy who came up with the color revolutions and worked in the Obama administration briefly, but it goes back a little further with him, and may have used the same guy to come up with the J6 scenario. Also, and Somalia.
Had attributes of that. I mean, what has intrigued me, I guess, surprised me a little, is I don't know if that they're using the exact same script in Brazil. They're now trying
and Somalia, where they took over the capital because the fertilizer, blah blah blah. I mean, you're seeing this around the world.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to repeat and replicate it again and again and again. It's like a different version of the Reichstag fire. But it is apparently now true. The reason why Bolsonaro fled Brazil to Florida is because they're trying to criminally indict Bolsonaro in Brazil for challenging the election on the grounds that he's responsible for people having those riotous activities at the.
Well, don't forget, our CIA chief went down there a month before the election, told him not to contest the election. I mean, you want to talk about the dark forces of evil. You know, I mean, and now, you know, I saw Greenwald was on Tucker a week ago, and he asked him, he said, you were a big anti-Bolsonaro guy, and you were pro-socialist guy. And he said, I've never been more afraid of the state in my life. And I am terrified of this judge who's putting people in jail. And he left it at that. He didn't get into the weeds about who he supported, didn't support. He just said that, and that was enough. I mean, I don't know what his future is, you know, in terms of being in Brazil, you know what I mean, as a journalist.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch because he's been willing to go against everybody there that's had corruption issues, including Lula, the current president, the current Brazilian Supreme Court. He's been repeatedly critical of.
I mean, the only thing I could think of is that if he can get to Miami somehow, I mean, that might be a good
He's got a job. He's already working for.
I know. I mean, that would be my goal if I was him. Take all your dogs, somehow get on a boat with your husband, the congressman who is a Lula guy, I think, right?
He might. In his interview with David, remember, he said that he went to Brazil so he could get married to a guy. Right. Well, that's done now. There's nothing there's preventing him from.
There. And there's a huge, you know, Venezuelan, Brazilian, South American population in Miami now. So,
it's gigantic.
And he was raised in Florida too. I mean, he was born in Brooklyn, but he was raised in Florida by a single mom who, if I recall, worked in the window of a McDonald's his whole life. She was the woman in the window of a McDonald's,
which is wild. Yes, it's a
pretty wild story. I mean, of being raised and. She'd bring home all the scratch cards to see if they won free French fries, Robert. I mean, you talk about, you know, an American dream. I mean, Jesus Christ, you know.
Well, you know,
if it was later, it could have been part of the Monopoly scam.
Oh, that
get
was
something
great.
Out of that.
What a great documentary, that Monopoly.
That was a great documentary. I love that. But for those that don't know, it was the McDonald's Monopoly scam back when I was part of the thing and how an inside guy helped rig it. Always reminds me of that old little biblical tract I read as a kid. Have you ever seen little biblical tracks?
Like the Bazooka Joe comic strips, but biblical.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, like they're small and they're handed out and they tell a story almost in a comic strip style. Yep. So this was one of the stories. It turned out inside the Pope's hat is the number 666. According to this is Baptist country. You know, the way we grew up at but it was the story of a guy who had accumulated all the wealth he could ever have. And he was going to protect it in the best security system ever in a super duper safe. And so he hired the very best person to put it together. And then he woke up one day and it was all gone because the guy who built the safe is the one who stole it all. So it's one of those kind of stories. How you can't build up material wealth, etc. But on the immigration front, you know, with people who are in the Greenwald type situation, that's kind of the Constantine Kimmon story. It's here's his look at where he's at. Son of a Russian immigrant, Russian himself, goes over there to British boarding school when he's young. Now his mother is from Ukraine and has family from Ukraine. His wife is from Ukraine and has family in Ukraine. He acknowledged that they were repressing all kinds of civil rights and civil liberties in Ukraine, and he thought it was just he was justifying it on grounds, hey, that's war. But ask yourself, there's three possibilities. One, he's just sincere advocate, has a different position than the rest of us, or some of us do. The second is he's controlled opposition of a type because of how his father got recruited and his sort of quasi, when you're an immigrant, you don't have exactly the same, you never feel fully protected in another country, put it that way.
Yeah.
In some people's instance, like Greenwald can be feeling right now about Brazil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then third, even if you're not controlled opposition, could he be free to be a leading critic of the war and jeopardize his mother's family, jeopardize his wife's family when the Ukrainian government is disappearing them on the regular? It's like there's no way he can even be on. He has to be as crazy an advocate for Ukraine as possible to protect the safety and security of his own family.
I would. I mean,
that's a logical play to make.
A lot of the Chinese people who've come here, by the way, the Chinese are under the Chinese Americans who came here in the past 10 years, 5 years, whatever, and the same pressure, and which nobody
talks
about.
That's what those Chinese secret police stations are all about.
That's what I was just going to mention. There's one in New York, in Chinatown, and I'm going like, nobody seems to find this bizarre that there's a Chinese police station of the Chinese Communist Party in New York City. I mean, what are they investigating? Is it like Monk, where the guy goes out and investigates Chinese crimes only? There's like a detective. I understand there's one in Paris. There's one in London.
Well, several in Canada because of the big Chinese presence.
And Canada too.
Big Chinese presence in Canada. They used to do a lot of Chinese films. Hong Kong films used to be filmed a lot in Vancouver and other parts of Canada.
Look, I understand. Like we have FBI in London with Scotland Yard. We have a mutual agreement, but this does not seem to be the same type of thing. They just put out a shingle saying
they're here to help migrants, help Chinese citizens,
right?
With issues back home,
right? Right. I see.
In other words, you spoke out,
right?
Grandma's going to have to go to jail.
Well, not only that, the intimidation factor of not speaking out because there's a Chinese police station a block away from you in Chinatown in New York. At Big Wong's restaurant next door to Big Wong's, where we used to go with Al Goldstein from Screw Magazine.
Oh, that's a real name? I thought you made that up. Big
Wong. No. He used to take us from Lampoon, me and Ratso and the editors. He'd pick us up in his limo. And this is before Larry Flint. There was Al Goldstein. You know what I mean? And Al Goldstein.
It was actually called Big Wong?
yeah. That's the name of the restaurant in Chinatown. Yeah.
That was Edwin Edwards when he got caught gambling when he wasn't supposed to be in Vegas.
Yeah.
He's governor of Louisiana. He had a fake name. And it was called, it was like Edward Wong. He was pretending to be Chinese, Edward Edwards.
That's funny.
And so the headline was Man Gone Wong.
Man Gone Wong. Wow. Yeah, I mean, like when the Chinese premier came here, the last one to LA, they put on ceremonial garb and greeted him at the airport as if it was, Chinese Mussolini showing up. And these were Chinese Americans who live in LA, have normal jobs. All of a sudden, they got the siren call, like, put on your old red outfits and let's go here, Yeah,
and there's people don't know there's a huge shadow banking system in the Chinese amongst Chinese Americans and Chinese around the world, often dependent upon connections to China. I represented a client who was under investigation in the U.S. and in China, and to deal with because of risk to his family, he went back and faced a rough prosecution in China because it's the North Korean model. Why don't people flee North Korea? They're going to take out and punish your whole family unless your whole family leaves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, do we have an extradition treaty with them where we will send them to China?
We do. We actually have an agreement to share information.
Right.
Now, after certain Taiwan issues, China suspended compliance with that, cooperation, which actually is huge because there are more Ponzi schemes going on in China than there is in the United States by a long mile.
Well, let me tell you something. They love gambling more than certain people.
Because it's a spiritual thing. It's religious. I didn't figure that out until later.
You go to this Commerce casino down here outside of LA. It's just all Chinese smoking. You can't even get through there. It's like a napalm bomb went off in there. And they are just addicted to gambling. And, of course, the Deer Hunter, where they play Russian roulette in North Vietnam, one of the great scenes where they put the gun to
But they're definitely not trying to do anything that YouTube wouldn't like to hear.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing.
Speaking of what are the movie recommendations? Somebody
today I just put the box inside, but The Lives of Others is the movie I'm recommending. It is a German film, won Best Foreign Film as an Oscar, and it's about 1983 in East Germany with the Stasi eavesdropping on a group of artists. Highly recommended film based on where we are today.
It's fantastic. Great surveillance.
Oh, you know this film?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh yeah. The lives of others.
We're reminded. It took the sort of atmospherics of the conversation with Gene Hackman, and combined it with the surveillance state and the horrors of the surveillance state.
Oh yeah, it's much grimmer and realistic. This is not an over the top film. This is really gritty, but very accurate and I think very contemporary. So The Lives of Others is the film I'd recommend.
Like someone like Constantine Kissin.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You look at his background, his family. So the little backstory is that his father was one of those well-connected Soviet bureaucrats,
right,
that quickly became an oligarch. I think Constantine called him a mini oligarch. But I mean, this guy got rich fast, became part of the Yeltsin regime. He was part of the Yeltsin regime. What he was supposed to be doing was restoring Russia's relationships with the ex-communist Soviet bloc countries under the Commonwealth of Independent States. But what it appeared he was actually doing was helping carve up those states for Western profiteers at the expense of both those states. And by the way, Ukraine included. His father was married to a Ukrainian, and for their profit. He was so then there was part of a connected part that was connected to Putin. Putin wasn't yet in power, but would become part of the Putin regime. Russian nationalists that were very unhappy with what was happening. Didn't like the oligarchs running mad, didn't like the carving up of the Russian Soviet Empire, didn't like the West coming in and dominating, didn't like the explosion of crime and poverty. So they momentarily gained power, partial power, and they started to crack down using tax and fraud charges. The number one person hit, the first person hit, was Constantine's father. Because he had tons of cash and lots of foreign bank accounts in a range of names. Now, Constantine's father then vanished. Russia could never find him. They came out 3 months later and said, we don't know what happened. He just disappeared. In fact, if you search Google or other people's searches, good luck trying to find him today.
Wow.
There is literally no record of him beyond what his son does. What shows up next is his son is in a British boarding school, and that's it. But you never figure out what happened to the father. The son then goes from a British boarding school to being a translator for financial institutions. And you don't have to think too long about what kind of financial institutions needed a Russian translator at the time,
right?
But you also don't have to guess, how does a high-ranking Russian Yeltsin official just vanish?
This is clearly Lenny Brucewitz, the Russian Lenny Bruce. I mean, what you describe? What does this have to do with comedy?
I'm going to guess that his father probably worked with Bill Browder. But
Browder, yeah.
Yes, but not only that, he had to be MI6 or something like that had to get him out.
Well, look, I mean, my theory has always been that these Soviet apparatchiks burrowed into the United States and the Democratic Party and into London at the collapse of the Soviet Union, as I've talked about repeatedly. If you look at Daniel Aparovich, the guy who ran CrowdStrike, who's now one of the big wigs at the Council of Foreign Relations, he's the one that took the DNC servers, Robert. I mean, this Aparovich, whose father was a Soviet nuclear engineer who came to the United States, and a bunch of these people, which I call like the Russian version of Operation Paperclip. The collapse of the Soviet Union led to these Soviet bureaucrats, probably like this kid's dad, burrowing into London and into New York and into Brooklyn and into the DNC, where clearly Aparovich was in charge of CrowdStrike. And his wife was the cyber commander for Obama. I mean, this is, you talk about a power couple. She was a cybersecurity commander for Obama, and he was the guy who ends up with the DNC servers saying they were hacked by the Russians when clearly it was Seth Rich with a thumb drive.
Well, the other thing is like Constantine claimed his father was cleared. I've never seen any evidence of that whatsoever. But the other thing with a lot of these guys, what you're detailing is a lot of these operatives were aligned with the West to sort of take apart Russia, but also had a specialized skill set, like a lot of the Nazis under Operation Paperclip.
That's right. You got to have a skill set. You can't get into the Legion of Superheroes unless you have a superpower. Bouncing Boy didn't really have a superpower. He inflated into a ball and bounced trying to knock criminals over. So they were constantly kicking him out of the Legion of Superheroes. But go on. I digress.
Oh, no.
One thing, Barnes, I did notice when you're bringing this up about him and his father, he kind of contradicted himself in a way, because he was talking about how his father, BS charges, blah, 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 blah. But then later on, when he was getting heated with David, he was like, oh, I know Russia did it because my father did it for them. His job was to keep all the other countries in line.
Wow.
Do you remember that part of the interview? Because it was like, as he was getting stressed,
I'm going to have to look.
It was like, he started.
Yeah, but here's the reality. All those old oligarchs aligned with it, just like the Clintons. They thought they were going to they were all going to get fat and rich and powerful, divvying up the resource-rich Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the Clintons couldn't wait. The Clinton Foundation was first designed to get rich off of Russia by every means, by hook or by crook.
They must have been disappointed to end up with this shithole Haiti as a going away prize.
I mean, imagine. I mean, you could have real resources.
Right.
They were thinking, the Clintons thought they were going to be billionaires.
Right.
I mean, they had all the connections wrapped up. They had just got Yeltsin reelected. Putin had just come into power at the very end of his term. He thought, hey, no problem. We're still going to roll through this. We're going to slice them and dice them. We got the connections. We got the conduits. We got the people. Some of them we've helped escape. Some of them are still there. And what Putin did is he took out a lot of those the most corrupt Western-oriented oligarchs, and he screwed over the Clintons of the world.
Oh,
and that's why they're
breaking
so
news.
bitter.
Breaking news: Elon not guilty of fraud charges.
Oh, hey, I'm starting to respect Musk now. He was never supposed to win that case in Delaware.
Bravo.
And he won. He just went into San Francisco with
into
a hostile
the belly
jury
of the beast.
pool.
In the belly of the beast.
With a judge fixing the case against him in many key parts, and he won anyway. This guy's going to be on like cloud 10, and he's screwing around with the deep state. He may be a wacky transhumanist that wants to drag us all up to Mars as sacrifices.
Wait a minute.
But hey, you got to give him credit.
Come on, Barnes. Let's go to Mars, you transhumanist. Just a brief note. I saw you on the Duran, and they were talking about a actor. Remember, he was saying his friend's wife was a superstar actor who believes everything he reads in the Daily Mail, and he wouldn't give the guy's name in that segment, which I recommend people watch Robert on the Duran yesterday. That's Jeffrey Rush.
I cannot comment. He told me who it was, but I can't.
I'm telling you who it is because I have no dog in the hunt. It's Jeffrey Rush, who was accused of a Me Too situation. He sued the British tabloids and he won. But as he was saying, he still believes everything they write about Russia. Which was a fascinating little part of the show.
Well, that was like the people were wanting me to debate Constantine. And it was like two things with that. It was one, I'm not sure he's not compromised at some level to where I would be jeopardizing the safety of his family by debating him. I'm like, I'm not going to expose him necessarily in that way. If I thought he was just a bad faith actor, but there was no personal risk for him, I was like, I'm not going to do that. And I thought that Viva held his own just fine. I mean, Constantine was spinning. It was a lot of confession through projection. He said, I hate these fake narratives. And then he spun one of the biggest, lamest fake narratives ever. The Donbass wants to be part of Ukraine. Crimea wants to be part of Ukraine. Stuff that he himself, by the way, 2 years ago said just the opposite. Before they scripted him. But people underestimate how they
some people on Locals who wanted me to debate Ben Shapiro over the Kennedy assassination. I said, we don't debate Holocaust deniers. That's my answer to this. We don't debate Holocaust deniers or JFK conspiracy.
Shapiro generally won't debate any true equal. He'll show up with somebody and like he went on the British channel, didn't really know the guy, and freaked out and went off the channel to debate rather than debate the guy. He'll avoid anything like that. But
how does this guy end up in Oxford? That's my question. I mean,
he was put at a British boarding school early on because the reality was this was one
no. I mean, as that speech he gave at Oxford.
Oh,
how does he end up there? I mean, I'd like to know that machine.
So he's a translator, part-time comedian, though I've seen no evidence he's a successful comedian.
Lenny
in
Bruce
2018, he shows up out of the blue on the political scene. And he shows up by turning down some rules regarding wokeism. He's backed by Douglas Murray, who's got all kinds of spookish connections.
Which leads you
Yeah,
into
yeah. Tell
Jordan.
me about Douglas Murray, because I had never heard any of that before last night. I've always found it to be pretty amusing. But
So Douglas Murray, very smart guy, gay conservative out of the UK.
Yeah.
But on issues of war, Russia, and the deep state, he is one of their strongest deep state apologists out there.
Well, look at his parallel brother from Toronto now, Jordan Peterson.
Yes. I mean, look what they're doing to Jordan. I still firmly out there. I still love Jordan Peterson.
Me too.
But when he ventures, they are pimping him out now to basically propagate, war and conflict in places we don't need it. Or places where we can have a different policy approach. Him, that he's suddenly talking about regime change in Iran is like, why, Jordan?
Wow.
I mean, all you're going to do is jeopardize all the good work you do because people are going to say, oh, that guy's just political. So I can ignore his psychological advice, ignore his advice on culture, ignore his advice on a whole bunch of topics because here he is preaching regime change in Iran.
Well, he was on the wrong side of vaccine mandates too.
Shut up and take the vaccine.
Yeah, dude.
Wrong on elections. Wrong on a lot of the same issues.
Keep in mind that Peterson has the largest collection of Soviet art in the world. So he's very deep into that. So he's probably pretty easy to turn because he also has the cultural Marxism, and a lot of people get annoyed with him.
He was a Marxist himself, but he self-admitted that he was a Marxist when he was teenager. Early.
He's one of those converts that becomes a critic, kind of like Christopher Lasch, whose study of the family is what turned him from being part of the Frankfurt Marxian school to being one of the greatest populist intellectuals in American history. That's still really underappreciated but read Revolt of the Elites, read, True and Only Heaven. There's a bunch of his books that are just fantastic and very prescient. He wrote Revolt of the Elites in the 90s. And
is Jordan going to interview Victoria Nuland next? I mean, what is he doing?
Well, you know how he started off on the Ukraine issue? He interviewed one of the Kagans.
No, I'm kidding. That's what I'm saying. Nuland's next. I mean, I know he interviewed a Kagan.
I had people sitting me saying, "Well, look at this good interview with Kagan. Now, this is and I was like, do you not know who the Kagans are? They're the biggest neocon, warmongering, war whoring family in American politics." But now you have one of Anne Applebaum, who's married to this, I think, Polish type official, who's connected to certain activities.
Sikorsky, he's a former defense minister
who wants to go back to the old Polish-Lithuanian Empire and start.
Who could blame him? I mean, things are getting.
There are arguments for the Polish-Lithuanian Empire.
No, they need some Lebensraum, Robert. But you got the entire 101st Airborne Division in there. You've got all these people crammed into Poland. They need some living room. They've got to expand it to the Ukraine, for Christ's sake.
Living room is an interesting thing. That was a certain German's phrase for how.
Right, Lebensraum, my friend.
Yeah.
My friend.
Speaking of words, Yiddish word of the day.
Oh, Yiddish word of the day is kvel, Kvell, and that is to have an incredible amount of respect for or hope, and kvelling means to hope and have respect for.
Hey, Locals has got you covered, though, because they said it was supposed to be, I think, Spritz.
Oh, well, you know what? We'll use Spritz on Tuesday. We're going to go with Kvel today. We'll save Spritz for Tuesday. Well, although Spritz might be a good one for this comic because comics are known to Spritz. That's where, Lenny Bruce was one of the top spritzers and Buddy Hackett was a spritzer. These were they were tumblers and spritzers in the Catskill Mountains, the Borscht Belt comedy vernacular. And a spritzer was a guy who talked a lot nonstop, like we were talking about Lord Buckley. We did an episode on Lord Buckley this week, and he was called the California Chatterbox because he was just an incredible verbal linguist who was able to do different accents and Ebonics and British, royalty and different voices. So he would be a spritzer in the Yiddish term.
They got a new Netflix series on the king that was aligned with the Nazis.
Really?
I haven't watched it yet. It wasn't available for whatever reason, but I think it's a Netflix. Maybe it's Amazon, one of them. But I was like, that's kind of an untold story. It's a little bit of
a British untold story, which is another channel. But somebody told me All Quiet on the Western Front is dubbed into British accent Nazis, and there's no subtitles allowed by Netflix.
Really?
And so these people are telling me this. Like they tried to go to the settings. There's no subtitles, and it's dubbed in British accents. That's kind of disconcerting for a film that, is up for Academy Awards. It's crazy.
It's a favorite to win.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Well, that's odd too, because they did Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, all three of those with subtitles. So they have done subtitles on Netflix before.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything has. This one apparently does not.
Speaking of the Germans, I mean, how dumb does the West have to be to send Leopard tanks to Ukraine? Because Putin jumped on it right away because they used, of course, Leopard tanks in World War II by the Nazis. And that's Putin wants to make this war, Nazis versus Russia, the Great War Part 2.
Can you imagine the documentaries that are running in Moscow, old documentaries of German tanks rolling?
Well, it's their favorite films. Like two things. If you
Stalingrad, my favorite war film, Stalingrad.
Yeah. But brilliant war.
That's a German-Russian co-production, and it may have been the last German-Russian co-production. I'll tell you that much.
The second most popular style of Russian war movie is always about tanks. It's all about, so that's why it dominates the psychology today. Right. You can look at movies over the last, they've got some great tank movies. I mean, really
Putin made a statement paraphrasing yesterday, we're not sending tanks to the Polish border. We have other weapons for that. In other words, that's out of World War II. We're not going to use tanks. That would be insane. We have a thing called missiles. We have missiles now, which they didn't have back then.
Well, and they have those little nuclear mini submarines that can induce a tsunami.
Those are great. I like that. You think that could flood London? Do you think that could cause trouble?
Well, the Russians were showing another TV show of it yesterday. They're like, let's see what we can do to you. Here's what it would look like, England.
Speaking of Yahtzees, we'll use David's term.
Okay.
I like how Constantine
Yahtzees.
I want my Nazi scalps like Brad Pitt's Tennessee-based character.
That's great.
We're already demonetized. I've already put it under review. Give it a shot. No.
By the way, that's General Walker, Robert, the Brad Pitt character.
Oh, really?
That's right, brother. That's General Walker.
I want my Nazi scalps.
Yeah, that's why he's got the Southern accent, Robert.
Interesting.
Anyway, I like how Constantine stated that there were more of them in the U.S. military than there are in the Ukrainian.
I was like,
I'm like, how many soldiers are watching? Please let me know, because I don't think he wants to be very welcome here.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was just ridiculous. It's just absurd at levels of absurd. That was like, he would be smarter to make more, careful, calibrated arguments. Don't claim that Donbass all loves Ukraine. Go back to 1991. The Donbass and Crimea didn't want to be part of Ukraine. They wanted to stay part of Russia. All the way back.
The Crimean vote had election observers from multiple countries around the world.
Exactly. There was no questions about it.
Right. What do they get? 92%? We got to get out of here.
Oh, completely. And it goes all the way back in the early 90s. Crimea was the most Russian.
Well, they were under pressure, Robert, because they wanted to get pensions. You influence them with economic benefits? How dare you?
The only reason the Russian military was even present is because when they were trying to resist in Odessa, they were burning them alive in buildings, the Ukrainian militias.
By the way,
the Ukrainian militias was trying to go to Crimea, create the same thing, and the Russians said, no, you're not going to do that on a place that we have a military base and have at Sevastopol, going back, decades and decades, going back centuries, actually. But all you can go to all the elections when there was a pro-Russian versus anti-Russian candidate on the presidential ballot. Donbass and Crimea, 90% plus for the Russian candidate.
Right.
So Constantine was just making all that stuff up.
A full-throated endorsement yesterday by Scott Ritter of Putin. You talk about a 180-degree turn. Wow.
Yeah. I think as people do a deep dive, they get a more. It's my argument that I was talking about with on the Duran. I was like, if you're a conservative and you like balanced budgets, flat taxes, cultural conservatism, good sets of reserves, strong military, patriotic country, anti-woke. The actually number one example of that in the world is actually Vladimir Putin in Russia.
Well, Oliver, I talked to Stone when he came back. He gave me a copy of the book and everything when he went over and interviewed him. He says he speaks perfect English, German, multiple languages, law degrees. Come on. What Ritter said, which I thought was a great analogy, he said Putin has become the vial of anthrax, the weapons of mass destruction for the Ukraine war. I thought that's brilliant. They've just humanized a guy and then demonized the same guy. He's that vial held up by Colin Powell in the UN of anthrax. I think that was Peruvian marching powder, but nevertheless, he made his point.
If it was, Zelensky would have been begging for a little more of it.
Right. Zelensky, he may get the Trotsky Award of the year. If he ends up in Mexico City with a hammer, I mean, this guy may be in more trouble than Edward Snowden trying to find
They're
a base
taking out
robbery.
everybody around him to make sure he stays on. He knows who controls those puppet strings. He better make sure he has his exit plan ready to roll. But I figure, like Batista, if Ukraine collapses, he'll just be on a plane to rather than Miami, though he's got homes in Miami already.
Right.
I think it'll be Beverly Hills. He'll have his own production facility, reality TV series, movies. You know it.
Well, Beverly Hills, just so you know, Beverly Hills is the only region in the area that went for Trump. It is a red state by itself. So I don't know how Zelensky is going to fit in there.
That's true. That's true.
Right. He may have to go to some other place like San Francisco.
Well, yeah. Well, let me think. But he wants to be in movies and TV. Where's that? Probably makes sense to have a Malibu mansion.
Malibu, yeah. He's got to go to Malibu, where he could be killed by the tidal wave created by the Russians with their science. It could be the Zelensky tidal wave that crushes him and his condo. You know.
Remember that book, Just Let Malibu Burn, which was about how we spend way too much resources, California does, trying to prevent Malibu from burning, and it'd be more economical to just let Malibu burn.
Now, you had an interesting take on what Trump's doing down in South Carolina the other day. I thought we talk about that because
it's all about neocon Nikki Haley.
Right. But are they trying to set up and at least slow down or block him in some feeble attempt from getting the nomination? Putting out Pence in Iowa, putting her in South Carolina to at least slow him down, Robert. It seems apparent to me.
Correct. That's the goal. And I think that's why they want multiple indictments. So they want Georgia to indict on bogus election grounds. Yeah. And they want New York to indict because now they can't really credibly indict him on the classified records thing.
No.
Because Biden got caught with so many records.
Right. I mean, I think he said he took the Fifth Amendment like 400 times yesterday up in New York, right? I don't know what the record was.
He understood that they're just coming to lynch him, and so he's like, "Screw it, I'll let you guys do what you can do."
Right.
But that'll be. I mean, I'm trying to think of very political prosecutions of that scale out of New York, and usually New York stays with those mid-tier troublemakers. Yes. They usually don't go after the big boys.
Well, don't forget the head of his company is in Rikers Island right now. It could be Epstein at any minute. I mean, one of the most brutal detentions since January 6th. This is a senior citizen who had the temerity to deduct his car on his income tax, his corporate car.
Yeah, that's all it was. Yeah.
Right.
And some school bills and a few other things that are definitely commonly done in New York.
Right. He got the Manafort treatment.
Yep. He sure did.
I mean, instead of saying, like you owe us X amount of dollars, you're going to federal prison for 20 years, Yeah. So they bring in these forensic accountants who go over your taxes, deny your claims, don't allow you to pay it, take away your homes as criminal gains, which they did with Manafort, Robert, right? Had a house right here by me in Los Feliz. They took it months before the trial, months before they took away his assets, based on the theory that these are ill-gotten gains before you even had a trial. Is that possible?
Because this is where Scalia was weak. He allowed criminal forfeiture laws to basically skip all forms of due process.
Right.
And that was the area where he was just dead
wrong.
Was
Scalia murdered, in your humble opinion?
Oh, that's going to be a future hush-hush.
We're thinking about doing one ourselves, so I'm sorry.
Oh, of course, definitely. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a hush-hush later today.
Well, we'll both drop that right now, then. We'll move on to something else.
Yeah, I'm going to do a public – my next hush – my last hush-hush was – this will be good to discuss – the assassination of – who killed the kingfish, the assassination of Huey Long.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
And what's fascinating is if you dig deep, you find lots of overlap with the same people – in the same place in New Orleans with the Kennedy assassination.
Wait a minute. Who killed him? The dentist killed him, or
I don't think dentist had anything to do with it.
Right.
I think pure patsy.
Right. Yeah.
But the what's interesting is the guy who ran the Roosevelt Hotel, Seymour Weiss.
Right.
You know what? Guess who he was one of the original directors of? What? Something called the International Trade Mart.
Oh, boy. Founded by Clay Bertrand Shaw. Wow. Also known as Clay Bertrand as an alias. And, later a CIA operative we now know, Richard Helms at the end of his career.
Yep. So it's got a lot of the same overarching actors.
What is that murky swamp down there? I mean, was Chattanooga like that back in the old days? I mean...
it's when I was down in New Orleans, I understood it more.
Yeah.
With this last time when I took a tour of the pharmacy museum, took a tour of a bunch of places, and it's because it's a swampland.
Yeah.
In other words, the reason why partially it was cultural, that you had this overlap of French and American and
Spanish.
Yeah.
And the Spanish.
And a seaport. That's a big factor.
The seaport, being a port town, ended up bringing in a lot of Italian and Irish.
It was the gateway to South America too, Robert, for trade.
Gateway to South America, gateway to up the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
So port town in the swamp with a wide and wild range of cultures intermixing. But the key part about the swamp aspect, I think part of their whole let the good times roll. I can't pronounce it in French.
Right.
Viva could.
Viva could, sure.
Yeah, exactly. You could do Le Boto, whatever it is. I didn't realize their lives were unusually short. So because of all the parasites, because of all the issues of living in a swamp.
Oh, right.
And so what it did is it led to people being, let's celebrate today. Let's have as much fun as we can, because some virus is going to come in and wipe us all out anyway.
Well, you've also got the voodoo of Queen Marie.
When the Haitians came in, when the French escaped with their slaves.
As was depicted in Angel Heart, a great movie that we both recommend.
1 out of 10 people in New Orleans are still voodoo followers.
Marie Laveau. Yeah, I went to her grave, her tomb at Cemetery number 1. And there was an orange cat there, a tabby cat, and they said that was her. And I went, what? And they said, they told me that this cat was there, and then the cat appeared out of nowhere on her grave marker, on her mausoleum there.
And then you throw in all the pirates that use New Orleans as home.
Yeah, pirates.
So it was kind of like a pirate island for a long period of time.
Pirates,
Jean Lafitte, the famous Jean Lafitte, was there. That helped save America in the Battle of New Orleans with Andy Jackson.
Yeah.
When all the Tennesseans came down. That was actually a decent movie. It's an old school 1950 style movie. The battle that has all the Tennesseans with their coonskin hats.
Well, we when we were growing up, we heard the song was they fired their guns, but the Yiddish kept it coming. There weren't quite as many as there was a while ago. And obviously, we misheard the entire song. But
another fun New Orleans movie, along with Angel Heart, is Live and Let Die, as someone's mentioned.
That's a good one. What was the one? Yeah, there was another one with Mark Wahlberg, some swampy kind of movie.
There was a there's a Van Damme movie that's shot in New Orleans and Algiers. It's cool. There's another one with Kim Basinger and Richard Gere that was good. There was let
me tell you something. One of the worst ever made was the follow-up sequel to Bad Lieutenant, which didn't need to be made.
No, it did not need to be made.
That did not need to be made, especially in New Orleans. Bad Lieutenant, The Reckoning, or whatever it was. Look at this.
Viva's here.
I don't know how long it's going to be before my wife comes in and kills me, but we'll see. We'll see. Gentlemen, how goes the battle?
Well, we just want to ask you if you know the Yiddish word of the day.
I'm going to go with...
It's kvelling.
Oh, I was going to say schmeckel.
We've already released it. We just want to know if you know what kvelling is.
Kvelling?
Kvelling, like kvel. Your mother would kvel over her grandchildren if they came home with a report card that was good.
I believe kvelling is when you cut down a rotten tree in the forest, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
But I'm tisk.
No. How do you say let the good times roll in French, Viva?
It would have to be a similar expression. Let the good times roll. Let me just go to the interwebs and see what it has to say.
They say it all the time in Cajun country and in Louisiana.
What about the Tonton Macoute, the secret police of Haiti, Robert? They were into voodoo, scaring people with voodoo. They would bury you in the ground. You'd be dead. You'd awaken, in the middle of the night.
Is it laisser le bon temps rouler? Is that
yes?
Yeah. That's a literal. Is that an actual expression in French? Because that would be.
In New Orleans. They said in New Orleans.
That's interesting because that sounds like a
it's Cajun French.
Yeah, but it's not like an actual translation from an English expression, whereas you'd have like the French equivalent from France. So maybe that's like the Americanized French version because it's from Louisiana in America.
Well, it's Cajun French. It was originated down there.
Have you ever been to New Orleans, Viva?
I have not. Crime rate is too high, Robert.
Well, we're going to do one of our locals meetups ultimately in New Orleans. We got to do one in New Orleans. I love New Orleans.
I have the key. I have the key to the city right back there from Mayor Sidney Bartholomew.
I saw the movie there, Angel Heart with.
We were just talking about that.
Okay, that's my experience.
Angel Heart, Live and Let Die. the Battle of New Orleans, which wasn't quite shot in New Orleans, but it's about New Orleans. What are some of the other great New Orleans movies that people can remember in the chat? Maybe
Waterboy.
That's funny. That's funny.
That's a Cajun country movie. That's true.
That's funny. Well, what was the HBO series about that?
Trim.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I actually did a tour.
That was Treme. That was Treme. There was another
Treme.
one that was spooky, based on a book, a novel.
Oh, is it about the judge?
No, it was just all this. It was. I forget
Chat saying was the Big.
Oh,
Easy
the Big
movie?
Easy was a great.
That was
New Orleans
the
movie.
Big Easy. Yeah, Dennis Quaid.
That was a great New Orleans movie. They actually made a TV show based on it.
Right.
Hold on. Was the Big Easy the one that starts off with somebody who committed suicide?
Well, don't say that on there. What are you?
Oh, God,
say the secret word. It's on your bet your life.
Career. It was career suicide.
Keep it down.
That was the one with that. It starts off with "You can't always get what you want" by the Rolling Stones, right? That was the opening scene.
I don't remember that.
Oh, somebody pointed out a lot of obviously JFK is shot in New Orleans.
Oh yeah, of course.
Benjamin Button, Streetcar Named Desire, Interview with the Vampire.
Tennessee Williams, great play, great movie. Marlon Brando just nails it.
Yeah, I mean Marlon Brando and Streetcar. I mean you can't get more New Orleans than that.
Tennessee Williams lived in New Orleans for a long time.
Richard Lewis described the movie as simply a visitor throws off Stanley's bowling game.
Oh, you're talking about The Big Chill,
I'm
David.
talking about The Big Chill. What was the other one that we just said?
The Big Easy.
The Big Easy.
I think that had Ellen Barkin in it. The Big Easy.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Before she was bitter at Johnny Depp for kicking her to the curb.
John Leguizamo and I once went out with her and Rosanna Arquette, and in Planet Hollywood, and a guy showed up named Bruce Willis who actually owned the place, and they did not like Bruce Willis and let him know how much they despised him to his face, while Leguizamo and I were just cracking up, just trying not to laugh. It got pretty funny between these two dames. Two great broads.
Rosanna Arquette, she was in Pulp Fiction on that new thing. Was she politically crazy?
She in True Romance? I think that's her.
No, that was Patricia Arquette,
who was married to Thomas Jane.
And they both went crazy politically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, both out of Florida, by the way. Both. Rosanna Arquette told me she got kicked out of college, elementary school, high school.
Both Pelican Brief and The Client have a lot of scenes.
Oh, yeah.
That's because Grisham's from Mississippi, so he loves New Orleans.
Right. Parker Posey's from Laurel, Mississippi. Her father's a car dealer down there, in case anybody loves Parker Posey.
Did nobody give Eric a hard time because his backdrop is off-centered and it's like slanted more down to the left and to the right?
The plan was not to tell him for the entire show. Thanks for
we're live on Locals, Viva.
So
we're live on Locals, Viva.
Hold on. How did you do the simulcast? I mean, they do it at the studio. We're not going to tell you.
We're not going to tell you.
Hunley's going to keep that a secret.
Hunley
proprietary intel.
Yeah.
Well, who
Job
watched
security.
Who saw the interview with Kyle today?
We were just talking. Oh no, we didn't see that. We're doing this.
How was it? I think a sweetheart of a kid.
Yeah, you realize
we were talking about the interview you did with the Russian for 20.
We were talking about that earlier.
That was early. Yeah, I was and now I really wanted to highlight. I don't want to take the argument to Twitter. Now I realize where the element of motivated reasoning comes in, or confirmation bias, where it's describing what Russia's doing. And they lock up prisoners. If you criticize the war, you go to jail for 10 years. But when they do it in Ukraine, well, it's a war, and they've invoked the War Measures Act. That's the double standard that I should have said at the time. Damn it!
Right.
But how was Kyle?
Kyle was amazing. I mean, Kyle's amazing, but you realize he's amazing. He's 20 years old.
He's just a kid.
And 20 years old. But 3 to 4 years of his conscious life. That'll be 3 to 4 years of the 10 years of conscious life. Like 30% has been this experience. And it's like, you realize like I don't say wasn't denied a childhood, but the better part of his life.
Yeah, he's denied a childhood. That's for sure.
Well, if you study great populist politicians like the great Jim Curley out of Boston,
Jim Curley,
one of the only guys to ever get elected to a major police-oriented or type position while under indictment. Jim Curley. They made a movie.
He was chief of police too, right?
Yeah, something like that. I forget what the backstory was about how his policing power worked with his political position. But it was the basis of the movie The Last Hurrah, another cinematic reference. But what you found when the guy did the big book about Curley, he was studying populist politicians or machine politicians as they were identified back in the day in some urban areas. But he found they had one common denominator, which was they lost a parent or a caregiver or something else early in life. So they had to, it accelerated their emotional maturity, that they were put in a position where
you have to step up.
You had to grow up fast.
Yeah, and maybe you have sometimes you have siblings that are younger where you have to parent them.
Yes.
Well, I'll say without identifying to anyone in particular in my family milieu, sometimes losing a parent too young at age doesn't force you to grow up too fast. It actually just stunts your growth and traumatizes you for the rest of your life.
No, it depends on it fully depends on how
Prince Harry.
Yeah.
Now, what can happen is, particularly though, it's when they tend to lose their father as a caregiver, and so they tended to work earlier in their lives than most people. They took on parental responsibilities, and then that translated to their populist politics. That they sort of extended wanting to protect vulnerable people politically because they had to do so at a very early age.
Interesting.
In kind of the way that Kyle's had to grow up real fast.
Robert, link to Lion of Judea. I don't agree with the statement. Says he's being sued civilly into oblivion. Which states
he's being sued?
Yeah, he's being sued. I mean, it's like,
it's a crazy suit. I can't say too much about it because I have cases that may be in front of that.
Okay, so forget it.
So it's Judge Edelman, but that Edelman should retire. I'll just put it that way.
It gets past a motion to dismiss, but.
Because it's Edelman. Most judges would have dismissed that ridiculous claim against Kyle, but Judge Edelman won't.
Well, we know it's a different burden of proof, criminal to civil, but are there certain states that have statutes that say if you were acquitted criminally, you can't be pursued civilly?
Oh, no, generally that's nowhere, because it's different.
What is the civil suit against him?
Wrongful death by Huberman's father.
They're blaming him.
Right, wrongful death.
And they connected to the pedos and
wait, Eric, let's see it.
I'm trying. Just ignore me.
The motion to dismiss, they went for like the procedural, non-compliance for service procedure. I think that's a silly way.
Some of the allegations were nonsense. I mean, that did not state a claim, and Edelman just let it keep going anyway, which he wouldn't have if it was a range of other cases, having known how Edelman operates.
Well, Viva, you heard about the Musk victory up in San Francisco?
Did you hear about the Viva?
When did it happen?
Just now.
He
won the Twitter case, apparently, according to Eric.
Eric,
where he said that he was going to take Tesla private.
This was supposed to be.
Really? So manipulating the price.
He somehow won again. He won in a San Francisco jury pool with a judge
that
had already fixed the case against him, and he won anyway.
Hey, let me put the dots out there. No, I'm joking about that, but hey, maybe he has some dirt on the judges on the Twitter servers.
Well, I brought this up the other day. A lot of these guys, which Robert points out and I've pointed out, they have their own intelligence unit. H.L. Hunt had his own intelligence unit. Obviously, Howard Hughes had his own intel unit with Mayu. He probably has his own intelligence unit, I presume.
It's called the Twitter servers. He probably has all the dirt.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Who knows what he's got on the what?
Well, there was a story about him trying to protect his father down in South Africa with security the other day. So I'm talking about a different physical type of security. You know what I mean? It's a physical intelligence.
Oh, he definitely has that too, but that's a hell of a point. I mean, just the fact that he has a service, he may not even have to do anything. They just know. Oh shit!
They know what's
got
on
my
there.
DMs.
Is that what you're saying?
He's got my DMs. My pics.
He's got the DMs. Viva, you going to come to Vegas with us, or what's going to happen?
Well, yes, and now I'm noticing questions asking when the tickets are going on sale for Roberts and ours.
He's limiting it to 5 tickets, so you better get one for your wife. He's got some sort of a limit.
And it's a BYOM.
Yeah, you can't bring in
martinis.
Hamburgers. You got to cook your own burgers. I don't understand.
I haven't got the ticket yet, but I'm going down. I think it's going to be solo. We can't. Haul 5 people down for a long weekend. So
well, Eric and I are going to try to come down to Florida the end of March. So maybe
I'm going to be here, and we've got a barbecue in the backyard.
Okay, all right.
Baby, you're gone. Remember, you're gone at the end of March. That's spring break.
No, when he comes after.
We were going to go to we were planning on going to Arizona, but I think we canceled that as well. There's some stuff which is prohibitively expensive, so we might drive down to the Keys.
Well, what defines prohibitively expensive? I heard you look. It costs $5 to go on this little ride. This is an outrage. This is an outrage.
Well, that pisses me off on a principle. No, this is like if the tickets are unreasonable, I'd rather go down to Robbie's Marina and hand feed some tarpon. So I think that's what we're going to do is go to the Keys and go fishing. I want to go tarpon fishing.
Okay.
Oh,
all
so they could come down for the spring break and
Well, that's what I'm thinking now. Now that my wife
now do a locals meetup at spring break and
Well,
late
I'm going
March
to come
in
down there anyway. I'm the end of March, whether you're there or not. March 22nd, 24th, in there for a week. I'm going to go down.
Well,
we'll
make.
Have you ever been in Florida for spring break, Viva?
Never.
It can get a little wild.
That part of my brain has long.
I'll recommend the
since
movie.
shut off,
I think it's called Spring Breakers. If anybody's
it got crazy in Miami. Remember during the pandemic, they took over. They took over a bunch of streets. Police couldn't shut it down. They were jumping on cars and dancing.
It gets crazy, Viva. You got to be careful.
Where does it get crazy? Like
Miami,
Miami Beach, Miami Beach.
Not
and some other beaches. I'll
Deerfield Beach. What does it get?
No, it's the most aggressive up Panama City and all those places.
Yeah.
But it can get wild in Miami too.
Yeah.
All beaches.
Some old Jewish people in Boca go crazy every year. I don't know.
Oh God, that's what I want to see my mother in a bikini.
Over the delicatessen one time, and everybody gets.
You know they're going to clip that, right, Viva? They're going to clip that along with drinking breast milk. It's like Viva wants to see his mother in a bikini. What's this about?
But yeah, this will be your first spring break. That'll be very exciting.
Well, I might either take the kids to the beach to show them what not to do.
Wait, I meant to ask you, where is this studio? In Miami Beach, the local studio?
It's in the Miami area.
North Miami, or
I couldn't tell you, but also you
couldn't legally tell me. You mean
a little bit of A, a little bit of B. It's near Miami, but it took me an hour and a half to drive home today because there was traffic on the 95 or whatever it is.
Right.
The studio's beautiful. Today, the entire interview went off without a hitch. So
you did it in the studio?
Yeah, we did it in studio.
Oh, right on.
So it's Kyle is an individual. He needs to be interviewed in person. Digitally, it won't translate. So it was good to meet him.
He's a people person. He's very much a people person.
Okay,
loves his dog. He's that. He
brought a dog with him to the studio.
He didn't take the dog in the studio, but there was a dog.
Okay. Yeah, he's an emotional support dog, doesn't he?
I don't know about that. I didn't ask.
And I'm not being sarcastic. I thought it was.
It's a dog. Well, it may fit that category, but he got it as a puppy and just has always loved that dog. Every time I've talked to him, he's had the dog with him. So the big dog guy, obviously Viva's big dog. Now, I did love your little one there trying to encourage you after barely losing that great dinosaur.
I'm
fish.
going to get one of those fish, and it's like the thing is, I'm such an idiot. I had the alligator. It's not an alligator gar. It's a spotted gar. I've been doing it. Like I have at least 2 hours of video footage of me going around the ponds looking for these fish. The kids are going crazy. They don't want to do it with me. I just need to land it so we can look at the fish. Behold, it's. Oh yeah, he was good. He was encouraged me. We know it can be done, and it will be done. And then people are saying I should try eating a spotted gar, but I'm not eating anything out of the waterways that is not the Everglades proper. Damn cool fish.
Well, hey, let me jump into some.
Have you gone onto an airboat in the Everglades yet?
We've done that. It's called the holiday boat tour thingy in the Everglades.
No, my friend had one. He was a drug dealer, and we hit a alligator, killed it, dragged it on board. He made his girlfriend cook it for us.
Shut up.
Oh no, it's a whole long story. It broke his blade. Then he was pissed off. He drags the thing onto the boat. We take it back. He lived up by Orlando. He makes his girlfriend cook it, and all I could say was it tasted like chicken.
It does taste like chicken. That was a favorite place of a lot of, going all the way back to the days of escaped slaves for illicit activity, including drug dealers, was to be stationed out in the swamps. Popularly portrayed by the Gator series of movies, in part with Burt Reynolds from the 70s.
Oh, I forgot about Burt Reynolds. I forgot about that.
I love Gator and those follow-ups.
Gator, I forgot about Gator. That's right.
I have not seen any of these movies.
You missed the film pick of the weekend. It's The Lives of Others.
I've seen that. Yeah, that's when they're spying on the lives of others.
It's very similar to today, David. So you might want to
give it a. I know that I watched it when I was too young to appreciate it. The one that I remember watching was East West as a kid.
East West.
It's a similar type of movie, but
was it a miniseries or something?
No. It was a European movie about East West. I think it was. Not Germany, but it was like one of those.
If we do a spring break locals meetup, it may be that the Canadians can actually come into the country because it looks like there is an effort to finally remove the vaccine requirement for travelers.
But that was that's for May, I think they were saying, right? Not before then.
It may happen before then. There's effort to make it happen. But Thomas
Well,
Massey has proposed
you
legislation.
talk about a strange parliamentary vote. 210 Democrats voting against removing the COVID emergency on a federal basis. 210. Straight party line. I mean,
they're just all locked in. And did you see AOC's
in,
pretend black preacher routine?
What is that?
Every one of them. AOC, Talib, the other one there, Jan Skakowski, they all had unhinged performances. Like I don't know who
to do Hillary Clinton.
They believe this will get under the skin.
Tired. That routine.
If all you have is a hammer, I mean, it just immediately goes.
Paul Pelosi.
Well, Barnes went there.
I mean, it's funny because Paul Pelosi, the attacker, doesn't do anything until the police show up.
And he has
we just covered that on Thursday, by the way.
Where did he get the drink? So the guy's coming in to kill him or beat him up, and he's like, "Hold on a second, let me pour myself a drink."
I mean, I don't think I'd make the guy hot pockets like Paul Pelosi did just because he shows up with a hammer. I mean, that's ridiculous.
It's none of it makes it did not look like they did not know each other, and in the entire
he's holding him like by his finger. You see how he's holding him by his hand?
Totally weird.
And I'm going like, what is that? The hostage hand hold? I mean,
and look, Nate had the, don't look for a perfect victim, but when you're in a battle for your life, I mean, you're holding a glass that you don't drop to protect yourself.
Drink. Somehow the door opens. Have we figured out how the door opened yet?
It's automatic door. No. I'm very sure it's a button.
Okay.
You hit the button with a drink in your hand.
How did he open it though?
With a drink in your hand, you hit the button. I mean,
with the drink, like the back of your hand.
Yeah.
But can we?
Come on. Somebody who's got a little bit of a problem and a lot of money might have some convenient doors that you can kind of just bump, hit your hip, or
the interview with
in the movie version of the attack called Paul Pelosi Panic Room 2: The Reckoning. He goes down with the guy into the panic room, and neither one of them can get out.
I don't understand how the cops didn't do anything. Like, hey, what's going on here, guys? We got an emergency call at 2:30 in the morning, and you're fighting over a hammer, and they just want to talk.
But if you're a cop, you open the door and you're like, old guy is holding a glass in his hand, and he's got a pink, and you're in San Francisco. You're thinking, hey, it's just another Saturday night.
They definitely did not look like they did not know each other. And
the cop, as soon as he sees the cop, he just starts hitting him in the head with a hammer. I mean, the response time by the cops is like,
It reminds me of one of my favorite videos where it was like one of these animal recording videos where they're supposed to be training the animal. And
it eats them. It eats them.
Well, there's one that eats them, but there's another one where the animal looks at the guy, looks back at the camera, and then boom, starts.
It's funny because we once went to a Three Stooges festival, and in the trailer for the Three Stooges festival, movie festival, it had one of those carne type movies, Mondo Carne, were very popular, these documentaries. And there's a guy in the African bush, and there's obviously lions and whatever. And the voiceover goes, "This is the last footage ever shot by Jeff Reynolds in the African bush." And then you see the lions tearing them apart. And the people in the audience start yelling, "Who the F is filming this? Help the guy. Somebody's filming."
Mark, would you believe I saw Mondo Cane?
Of course, everybody has. I believe he did. Of course.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Cannibal Holocaust?
No, that's talking about. The favorite part is all you see the guy start to hit him, and then you just see the camera drop because the cameraman's running out of there.
No, Mondo. What's the one scene I specifically remember from Mondo Cane? It involved the dogs.
I'd have to look at it.
Hold on, is Mondo Cane the documentary, or is that the one?
Oh no, it's a documentary. Mondo Carne.
Which one is the movie? A South American movie about the guy takes a dog into his house, and the dog kills all the other dogs in his house.
That I don't know, but Cannibal Holocaust is set in South America too.
Cannibal Holocaust is a horror movie that had the guy on the spike, right? And no one could tell if it was
but it's
a real...
also the origins of Blair Witch. The original Blair Witch is Cannibal Holocaust. The Italian director recently passed away last month, so they wrote a tribute to Cannibal Holocaust as his thing. But he did things with animals that are not allowed today by PETA, that he was ostracized in Italy. It's an Italian film, by the way, Cannibal Holocaust, shot in South America, and they kill animals. They eat them and kill them, but obviously they don't kill and eat humans, but that's the plot. Blair Witch, they uncover some film footage at the end.
Found footage.
Found footage. Yes, found footage.
Oh, so has people sent in some super chats or Rumble rants or local?
Oh, yeah, I've been trying to get to them, but thank you.
Oh, Hunley, go crazy.
All right. Pasha is using his new custom glass from Ziggy for the stream. Ziggy Shrug has released some great glasses. I believe there's
she makes great stuff. I mean, she made stuff. Did you get some of it, Viva? I got some of the decorations, Christmas decorations she did for us.
I have to think now. I thought I did. I'm gonna have to go back and refresh
one
my
of
memories.
those
the dreidels.
Jewish ones.
Yeah, dreidel. Yes,
dreidel. That's it. I had no idea.
The Jew toy.
Mm.
No, but I'm certain I did see it somewhere, and now I have to go refresh my memory.
All right,
what's the deal with the judge stripping Alex Jones of the bankruptcy protection in Sandy Hook?
I haven't heard about that, so I don't know.
Okay. Hey lads, it's a great source of pride that JFK's graveside ceremony was performed by Irish Army. A little odd for the commander in chief, though. Well, it's an Irish family.
Oh, it's an Irish family.
Well, and also that was a little backstory there. That was a long-standing fight between the up-and-coming Irish against the old Waspish elite.
That's true.
That was
That's
probably
true.
responsible for his assassination. So there might have been a secondary message sent in that choice.
Also, he created the Green Berets, and once they had the color guard guarding his casket in the rotunda, Jackie ordered them to face outward in a defiant statement against external enemies who killed him. Instead of inward guarding the casket, they faced the other way at Jackie's request.
All right, that's a good point. Constantine moved to the UK when he was 11.
Yeah, he's at British boarding school. He doesn't have, and his experience in Russia when he was young was being part of the the high-end bureaucrats turned oligarchs. So it's not exactly your working class commoner. But anybody within that group hates Putin. They all blame Putin for stripping them of their oligarchic wealth and political connect. That's why
you'd be bitter too. I mean,
Hillary Clinton still shakes when she talks about Putin because I mean, to the Clintons, Putin denied them being billionaires. They will never forgive him for it.
Well, okay. There's always whatever you think of Putin. There's something good there.
What?
Oh yes.
What does it say?
No, I was saying preventing the Clintons from being billionaires. I'll have to always give that to Putin. Whatever else he's done.
Oh, right.
That's a good thing.
He stopped the dismantling of the entire industrial.
And any loss for George Soros is always a win. That's a great craps table there at the Tropicana. That's an old school part of the. Maybe it was at the newer part, but they have some old school parts of the Tropicana still in place in Vegas that Shane was at, sharing the profits from his Vegas adventures.
Okay. So
this is pretty good.
Are we going to have entertainment at this thing, or are we the entertainment?
We're the entertainment.
Okay, I just want to make sure. There's no opening comic or anything. It's just straight up.
Have you seen that movie? The movie Very Bad Things.
Yes.
Well, which one was that?
Okay. We're not trying to recreate that either.
It's a terrible movie. You'll get.
It really was. It could have been good, but
I remember hating it. By the way, the movie that I was thinking about was called El Perro, and there was the scene in the movie where the guy rescues a dog and it kills all of his dogs.
I think it's an Argentinian film.
Yeah. And I think it was an Argentinian Mastiff in the movie.
Oh, the death to that super chat. The Death of Stalin was a great movie because that is so hard to make a black comedy like that of historical events, and they nailed it. Did you see it, Mark?
I did see it. I was not a big fan of it, but I understand.
David March is going live at 7. Very soon. David.
I wish everyone would. It wasn't bullying, and everyone watches it, and they can. We got to the bottom of the disagreement. You know, what's the ends justify the means when you think you're on the righteous side. So, the NATO had better employ the tactics that Putin is employing, but do them properly.
What was the movie where they were cloning Hitler down in Brazil? Oh, Boys from Brazil. I always thought that would have should have had a sequel to the Boys of Brazil because it's got the Doberman dogs in there, and there's also it ends kind of like not completely sealed up. That they were cloning down in Brazil, Hitler, and I thought Boys of Brazil 2 should have been made.
Did Wales really ban a Tom Jones song?
That's what they're saying, Delilah, because it's about domestic abuse.
Jamie, we're going to pull that one up.
The country did?
I guess.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
Okay, there you go. Six Semper Tyrannis Ronan likes your joke about Christopher Reeves, and they're quadriplegic.
Wow, that's great. Okay. That's great.
Well, I told you when you told me that before, Barnes. I was saying if it was actually Christopher Reed, he would have laughed his ass off.
Right.
Yeah. But that was back when you could do politically incorrect humor.
Margot Kidder, not so much because of the crack and everything else. So at the end, not so much.
That's true. But what? Oh, I mean, there's just a greater risk of something happening with Iran. There just is, because you can tell the neocons and deep state apparatus, and Netanyahu's always been a fan of taking out Iran. I've always thought,
what is the West's move to counter the Russian invasion that's coming in the next few weeks or whenever they're done shaping the battlefield? What is their move?
To take Western Ukraine for the Poles and then move on to somewhere else.
To create a phony humanitarian corridor, Robert?
Yeah, probably for the Western Ukraine. Basically, over time, take it over, and I think they know they're going to lose Southern and Eastern Ukraine,
right?
And they're not willing to actually escalate for the Ukrainians. They'll let the Ukrainians whack the last of their military age eligible quality soldiers, and then they'll have a complete puppet state in what's left of the rump state there, and they're just going to move on.
David, you can't hold your hand up. You got to just jump in. You just got to jump in. You can't hold your hand up. If you hold your hand up, it'll be like,
what's up with the spy balloon? And how many trillions of dollars did they spend on the military that they just find out they can't get a freaking balloon because it's at 60,000 feet? Or what was it? Yeah,
you talking about the Chinese balloon or the?
Well, how do we even know it's a Chinese balloon? But there's a balloon in the sky that they can't
publicly admitted, apparently, that it's
a Chinese we've balloon. Admitted that it's a we've all of a sudden pulled the plug on the peace talks with China because of the balloon, and they're saying it's controlled by the Chinese military. It's not just floating by, David. It's absolutely being controlled by the Chinese military as to where it's going. It's over Missouri now. They said it's heading to Malibu for reasons I don't understand.
Wow. I wonder if China will admit it or if China will come out and deny it.
Well, they're going to have to make a statement because they're now canceled the peace talks, the peace and trade talks. Blinken came out today.
Why is it not just very easy to take down a freaking balloon that's floating in the sky?
I think they've decided they're not going to.
They're not going to. They're not going to take it down.
Not that they can't.
May I ask why?
I think there's some other backstory here of something. Either we're doing something similar in China or other parts of the world that we don't want our stuff taken down,
right?
Or there's something else. It's just too weird.
And there's no kid in it, right? It's not like that guy from the backyard whose kid's in one of those.
So.
Okay.
There's a guy in a chair floating below the balloon.
They can't take it down; it'll kill the guy.
Right, because in the chair he's floating by.
Because I think you could even fly. Well, I don't. I have to go to the YouTube video to see how high the highest drone flew. But one of these drones, okay.
What happened to Dreisen, by the way? Kind of disappeared, Robert.
Oh, he's back up doing some occasional stuff.
Okay.
The writing his blog. But a lot of his best insights were early on because he understood.
Right.
And now things are kind of frozen almost, and then Russia's about to launch its massive assault. Apparently.
Right. Massive assault, David. Do you like the word the two words massive assault?
Yeah, it's the name of a new rock band. But go back to the other one there, the yellow one. When did the anti-war and peace movement disappear? Well, if you listen to the debate it's not a debate. The discussion with Constantine from yesterday, it is pro-war to not support the West's financing of Ukraine's war with Russia.
Yeah,
because by not supporting it, you are tacitly accepting Russian aggression and therefore are pro-war.
There was a lot of confession through projection by Constantine. He says, I'm so tired of these false narratives, and then he begins to spin in a completely, utterly false narrative.
He doesn't like other false narratives.
There's no happy ending in Stalingrad. Well, there is in Stalingrad the musical, which was never produced, with a lot of dancing Nazis and dancing Russians. So it depends which version you're looking at, the musical or the drama.
All right.
Mark Lane, Rush to Judgment documentary. Asked Paul McCartney to do the music. That's crazy. I don't know about that. You guys.
Oh, I love Easy Rider. That's right.
New Orleans.
Oh, New Orleans. Well, it's not the whole New Orleans. It's just,
it's a little bit of it.
It's the LSD chop. But he does go to Marie Laveau's grave, Hopper in Easy Rider on acid.
Jack Nicholson plays a great, Louisiana lawyer type personality.
Well, with one of the great lines in American cinema, this used to be one hell of a good country. Said by his character, one of the most memorable lines in cinema.
Wow. Wall Street Journal said the Chinese claims the balloon is a weather balloon and blown off course.
Not a spy balloon.
Got blown off course. I mean, they're throwing chopsticks. There's chopsticks being thrown down at the people. This is crazy.
It's a weather balloon that got blown. How many how does it get blown off course and end up over the United States? I mean, it doesn't. Okay,
Nicolas Cage once bought a house on sight unseen in New Orleans.
I think he was in Bad Lieutenant, the New Orleans version.
He was Bad Lieutenant too. He was in
right, Bad Lieutenant too.
Maybe he was even there filming at the time.
Right.
And then
Nicolas
he went on a
Cage.
ghost. He went on a ghost tour,
Mhm.
and they took him to this house, and they were talking about all the crazy things that had happened to that house.
Right.
It was the house he had bought, sight unseen. So he immediately sold
He's
the house.
also got a
never
great
moved in.
little turn in Snowden, where he plays the inventor, CIA inventor.
Well, he plays the guy that doesn't he play the guy that's been on Alex Jones a lot, Bill Binney, the great CIA whistleblower? Doesn't Nicolas Cage play that character?
No, he plays like a Sidney Gottlieb character who's inventing things in a laboratory. Some homage to Sidney Gottlieb, Eric, right? Or I don't know if you remember the Sidney Gottlieb was the dark sorcerer, the Prince of Darkness, the CIA.
By the way, really quickly, we just got $100 Rumble rant.
All right.
That's the highest Rumble rant ever recorded.
For us, it's from the shit one.
Oh, he's the shit one. Oh, come on.
Happy Friday. Love Mark to dig into Joe Kittinger, real American hero.
We vaguely remember.
The
Joe
name
Kittinger.
vaguely, but I don't
vaguely remember.
But
I need more RAM in my brain. How do you get more RAM?
I don't know.
Well, probably
this one's for you too, Mark. Anybody besides Wahlberg trying to build actual studios outside of LA and Atlanta?
Yeah, Medea did one. The black comic who built one in Atlanta, right?
Oh, Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry built one outside.
Oh, he means outside. The question I think is not
outside
in LA
of Atlanta
or Atlanta.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's some in New York, right?
I think
Santa Fe
built some stuff in New York.
Austin, Robert Rodriguez
has been talked about as a place. You know what it is? The tax breaks move around, so it becomes a carnival because all you're doing is mathematically finding where the tax breaks are that year, which could change in months. So you have to go to New Mexico and shoot a cinematographer, and I don't mean it, with a gun. But I mean, you may have to go to different places for different tax breaks. New Mexico, a lot of filming is being done there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, a lot. Well, I mean, didn't Gene Hackman move there?
Mm-hmm.
And so some big actors move there.
Well, it's funny because the Westerns are back. You've got 1883, Yellowstone.
I think Jeremy Renner moved up to Montana and tried to stop a runaway snowplow is what happened to him.
That wasn't Montana. That was like Nevada.
Was he in Reno or something? Or
might have been more like Reno or something. Well, I don't think it was Montana, but
okay.
Yeah.
Or a lot of them are in Montana. I'll put it that way.
There were some in for a while in Vancouver, like almost every Chinese.
Right, because that's where there is studios in Vancouver. There really are.
For sure.
Yeah. A lot of TV shooting up there. But you're talking about the tax breaks of another.
That's where Meghan Markle made her stellar, brief acting career. Stephen, man, thanks for all the great info. Wish I could gather info the way you guys do. A real talent. Yeah, I do too. I wish I could gather like these guys do.
Ooh. Sorry, my wife just told me it might be time for me to cook dinner.
What's going on down there? You just got here.
Lamb. We got lamb for dinner, and it's local farmed lamb.
Right. Go on.
It looks like
is it as good as the farm fresh milk from Amos Miller organicfarm.com?
I have yet to taste the milk. I'm gonna.
Is it as good as the fentanyl in LA that's currently circulating around the city?
Can you imagine what's going on in the world? It's okay. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, as to reason why I said I wasn't going to debate him, two reasons. One, I don't think he's acting in good faith for a range of reasons. Second, he's got family that would be implicated if he said anything anti-Ukraine. His mother's family's all in Ukraine.
Point.
His wife's family's all in Ukraine. I'm not going to just embarrass him for the sake of embarrassment when that could damage his family's relationship. So I don't consider him a reliable voice on Ukraine for the reasons I've articulated and the substance of his own arguments and the backstory. But I don't think it's productive. I also generally don't debate people I don't think are acting in good faith. I don't debate people that it could cause collateral issues for them to debate them. Mm-hmm. And I also don't debate people whose arguments I don't respect. Mm-hmm. And that's reality.
Well, I'd like to see the Peterson comic meet Peterson. I think that would be funny. The guy who does the impersonation.
Peterson. I mean, poor Jordan though. Right now, just getting pimped out left and right by Daily Wire to push all these regime change and other things. That's just
I can't. I look.
Somebody needs some press that you're in a band with Wayne Kramer and wants to know if there's going to be an MC5, America's Untold Story.
Oh, that might be something. Yeah, that's a good story, the MC5, because of John Sinclair and their political operations. They had an organization in Michigan called the White Panthers, and they were working with the Black Panthers at the time. The band, the MC5, was a political band that actually had machine guns as a band.
That was part of the,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying that was part of the reason that what's his name got whacked in Fred Hampton in Chicago, is he was organizing with the ex-Appalachian poor white groups in Chicago across the same. That's fascinating. I had never heard of the White Panthers.
No. And the MC5 is the only band that shows up at the riot at the Chicago Convention in 1968 and is playing on the back of a flatbed truck when the whole world was watching and the riot broke out, and they were on hallucinogenic honey, which was brought to Chicago, which was it's a long story of what the hallucinogenic honey was, but we could get into that in the episode. But I mean, a political band. Yeah, no, it's a fascinating story. I mean, Wayne was the guitar player in that band, and then was later in a band that I had called.
It meets the rules because it's untold and it involves you.
Right. So, he had an American flag guitar also, and he was in a backup band, backing me up in a band.
You're talking about a person that's torched her reputation is Eliza Blue. In that, and I increasingly wonder exactly what the agenda was all along, because what she's in net effect done is to diminish and dilute the term human trafficking to where it applies to rap videos you didn't like being in retroactively.
I don't get the whole thing, except Elijah Blue is Cher's son and the son of Greg Allman, and that's his stage name. His middle name is Blue. It's Elijah Blue Allman.
Isn't there one that's now like a daughter?
That's Chaz Bono. That was Sonny Bono's daughter from another marriage.
Daughter that became a son, right?
Mary Bono. Remember, became a congressman replacing Sonny Bono, who was in Scientology and then crashed into a tree while skiing on Quaaludes and killed himself.
Robert, Mark, what would be the sinister conspiratorial ulterior motives for Eliza, like other than clout chasing? What could
it would be like taking, Viva, your name that had some name recognition, and saying my name is Davis Viva, or, Viva. I mean, it's just co-opting somebody's name that's really popular. Elijah Blue is a guy who's got a band called Dead Z. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff with his father being Greg Allman. I mean, this is not an obscure character.
No, but what I mean to say is, like, with Eliza and what has come out now, like, I can think
the
of
human trafficking side.
I don't know.
No. He's just saying it's a shitty thing.
I'm just saying it's a shitty thing to usurp the guy's name.
Correct.
I mean, my point is, what if you wanted to dilute and diminish the point of human trafficking? You would have someone do what the Me Too movement did on campuses and say, you don't have to worry about rape or sexual assault anymore, because it's really probably somebody that just regrets what happened the night before. And you would dilute human trafficking because you equate someone like Epstein with Andrew Tate. You suggest they're the same. You equate someone who is under coercive conditions for their, actually kidnapped, actually held hostage, all of the real human trafficking with someone who regrets being in a rap video.
Or Amber Heard.
You effectively hurt the cause.
Will you be buying tickets for Bill Cosby's new date rape comedy tour that's coming up this summer?
You guys are killing me on the monetization. Can we come up with some
dead men walking here?
I know, but we're trying to hang in there, man.
Said the trape. That's all that Mark said. But what is he's not going on tour? Bill.
He is.
What's the name of the tour?
Date Rape 1 and Date Rape 2. I mean, the reckoning.
It's not, I don't know. Or it could be, what's in this drink?
It's sponsored by Jell-O, which I found to be weird. I mean, why would Jell-O sponsor this thing?
There's money there. What was I going to say before that? No, Robert, Mark, hypothetically, is anybody floating the idea? I'm not talking about Eliza, but like in theory, someone purporting to support a cause to potentially have access to the vulnerable people within that cause for exploitation? I'm like, is there
I don't know, but Boy Scout leaders were always the first suspects when it came to Boy Scout problems. So, I mean, who gravitates to this stuff, Robert? Is people
I think of the movie, the sports betting movie with Al Pacino and I think it's Matt McConaughey, where he goes to gambling anonymous meetings and passes out his business card to buy.
What was that movie called?
Well, that's also The Player, where he goes to AA meetings to make all the movie deals in LA.
Or people that want to pick up women, and they go to sex addict meetings.
Oh, dude, that's a big pickup thing here in Hollywood.
Well, hold on. You have somebody in Hollywood who teaches a class.
In what?
You were just talking about it to me the other day.
I was?
Yes, teaching a class on
James Franco was teaching a class how to make love on camera. A brilliant idea. One of the great Hollywood scams of all time. And he limited the class size, and people were clawing to get in there. All these actresses who wanted to make love with James Franco on camera. And then Seth Rogen threw him under the bus, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, Me Too, blah, blah. But wow, what a brilliant idea on the part of James Franco. Not that he needs that kind of activity, but he was passing on the techniques that he learned as an actor.
Gentlemen,
I think in Spring Breakers, which I recommend.
I don't want to provoke a premature exodus. I have to duck out.
No worries, but let's put it this way. Dealing with Mark on this show, I have to have my emotional support dog with me.
Oh, wow. What does he have?
Oswald.
Oswald.
What happened to Oswald, Eric?
He's a patsy.
I love the zooming.
Got photos of people that have carried around the patsy dog all over the place. Right. Of course, you can find all their content at
Eric's flying with that dog to Vegas for the meetup.
Oh, Groubert. There's the Groubert.
Yeah, I'll bring I probably will bring Oswald. I actually did bring him to Dallas.
You did?
Yeah,
that's right. You brought him to Dallas. That's right.
Just for giggles.
Okay, guys, I'm ducking out, but continue the conversation. Thank you for having me. How do I
get? I think it's about we're about to
shrink
wrap
down.
Anyway.
Just go down.
I can't get the camera to stop recording.
Just leave a blank.
But Mark Groubert doing his best Bill Clinton imitation. Just go down.
Just go down. Lower and lower.
All right, people. Have a good weekend, Robert. See you Sunday.
Oh, good God. Well, I actually got through the super chats. I got through the Rumble rant.
Okay.
Wait, no, couple more super chats here. The new Rat Pack coming soon to Las Vegas.
Rat Pack, I like that.
I like that too.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Wow, the locals pack.
And you didn't like the Nicolas Cage movie, Bad Lieutenant?
Dude, it was
one of the worst remakes ever made. I think Abel Ferrar shot it on a heroin nod. And I kind of remember the DP who I worked with, so I won't mention him.
You like him?
No, I do, because Abel Ferrar would nod out on heroin for an hour in the director's chair, and the DP would continue directing as Abel Ferrar was nodding out from heroin. True story.
I love that. Who the Elijah Blue is, has Elijah Blue or whatever the hell his name ever been as well known as Elijah? Yes.
Yeah, a lot more. A lot more, yes. It's Greg Allman's son. Yeah, he's kind of well known.
And Cher's son.
And Cher's son. Yeah, he's not an obscure character.
Mark depicts Mel Gibson being hated by all in Hollywood. Is this true? Media predicting?
Well, he's not. I mean, he's working in independent film. So, I mean, he's also doing the Christ movie part 2, which is going to be huge, which is independent. It's outside of the studio system. So whether he's hated, I don't know about
he was going to be indicted after Snipes on tax-related charges, but because of Snipes' felony acquittals, they dropped all cases against him. I met his dad years ago.
Oh, he's a sweetheart.
I call him Hootin' Tootin' Gibson.
Well, he was a fan. His dad was a fan, so I can't say anything too negative about him. But yes, he had interesting views.
Well, let's just put it out there. He's the world's leading Holocaust denier based out of Australia. And he refused to denounce his own father or his views. And I think that was the nail.
I always think of the Ricky Gervais joke when Milligan's about to come on. And he's good because he's going through different people hate this group. And he's like, well, we all know who Mel hates.
I wish Ricky Gervais.
Well, he was supposed to make a film about the Maccabees, the Jewish brothers that fought the Syrian army. I mean, I'd like to be in that pitch meeting with Paramount.
And Gibson was solid in a movie that just released called Agent Game.
He's great. He's great in everything he does. I mean, he's a great.
He is a natural actor.
He's an absolute great talent. All kidding aside.
No, Russell Crowe's very good too. When
except that he's blown up like a Chinese spy balloon, and you can't fit him on the screen. You know what I mean? Like, I'll put it this way. And
he's looking like Marlon Brando.
He's gone to full Brando. Shane Black built a set for him on the Nice Guys, I think it was. and it was supposed to be his private eye office. This is like a little inside Hollywood, but Robert would love this. So he has a set, and he shows up and he says the office is too small. And he goes, what do you mean it's too small? And it took a while for Shane to understand that he was so fat that it made him look fatter. And he had to tear apart the office and build a bigger office to make him look smaller. Yeah. And only in Hollywood would this happen with a Brando situation like that. Russell Crowe, obviously, great actor.
Well, thank you, Dove Omega. Demonetize, deschmonetize. Is that a Yiddish word, Mark?
It is now. It is now.
Yeah. You paid to get it there. All right. So to wrap it up, what are we looking at for buying tickets, et cetera, for Vegas?
Oh, yeah. What do we do now? Do we do anything?
Announced through locals. And
right.
So next week will be announced February 26th, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. If you're within a half day's drive, you can drive that morning and drive back if you want. Right. You could fly in that morning and fly out the same night if you want.
What about horseback?
I do recommend Saturday nights in Vegas. They're a lot of fun, and you can have a lot of fun because we're not starting until 2 p.m. We're not starting early.
So I'm going to come in on Saturday and do what you just said.
Yep. I'm going to get in late Saturday night.
Okay.
And then, but yeah, we'll be from 2 to 6. We'll have very limited capacity. 75 people probably max. Haven't fully decided. We got to figure out. We're finalizing the venue. There's a particular venue I really want, but don't know yet if we can definitely get it. And it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a classic meetup, and I guess we'll call it Rat Pack style.
Yeah, Rat Pack style. Well, we can name them at different cities where we go. Chattanooga,
exactly.
Chattanooga
Choo-choo,
the Chattanooga Choo-choo meetup, the Spring Break meetup. With the Jewish deli meetup if we end in New York.
The Spring Break could be Guys Gone Wild.
Velvet Underground's been covered to death. So.
Well, I don't know because you have a connection to Lou Reed. I wouldn't mind it.
That is true. I did mention Lou Reed. I mean, he was at my uncle's funeral. So, yeah, my cousin ran his company, Sister Ray, for the only person who ran it was her, Beth Groubert.
So there you go. So, I mean,
that's the show.
We do him, if we did him, Velvet Underground has to come up in that lot if we do it. So, I don't know. Well, we will see. We'll see. All right. Well, folks, on that note, I don't know what we have coming Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you till the very end because you're a blabbermouth. You'll put it all over the internet. It'll be something. It's a JFK obscure figure. Let me just leave it at this. It's another very obscure JFK figure. I'll just put it that for Tuesday for people to tease it out a little bit.
All right. And I have my girl stream tomorrow. Barnes, you have Bourbon Barnes tonight?
Oh, no, not tonight. That's not till the next thing up will be there's a hush hush on Freemasons. I plan on Freemasons this weekend on law.locals.com. And then otherwise it'll be the Sunday show and Bourbon. A Barnes brief is going to be published for the weekend, probably tomorrow morning.
All right. Well, fantastic. And we'll see everybody soon.
Thank you.